Hey everybody! Throughout this unit we've been talking about quadratic equations, which are equations that when you graph them make parabolas. So I know during our square roots week we looked at different types of what the different answers of the square root method gave us. So graphically, when you have a parabola, the x-intercepts, we have a bunch of different names for them. Remember, they're roots, zeros, or solutions. So these two roots or solutions are telling you how many solutions your equation is going to have. So for example, this equation doesn't match the graph, but in this equation, if you took the square root of both sides, you'd get x equals, and remember it's positive 2 and it's also negative 2. So if I drew a graph, the graph would be hitting at negative 2 and at positive 2, and then we would have a parabola looking like that. So with two solutions, you've taken the square root of a positive number. Remember, with no solution, that would be if you took a square root of a negative number. Square roots of negatives are not possible, so that's a parabola that has no x-intercepts. Notice it's never touching the x-axis. So this one is the no solution. And then one solution means the parabola is touching once. So here you can see the parabola is touching the x-axis only one time. So sometimes it can be facing up, it could also be facing down, but it only touches the x-axis once. So in this situation where you take the square root of 0 is just 0. You can't have a positive 0 and a negative 0. So the only time you're going to have one solution is when you're taking the square root of 0. So this idea is going to come into play today. The other review I'd like to do is the quadratic equation. Last week when we did factoring, we talked about like a, b, and c. So I want to remind us what a, b, and c are. So a is always the number that's with the x squared term, b is the number with the x, and c is your constant at the end with no x. So looking at this equation, a is 2, because that's the number attached to the x squared. B is negative 3, so this minus stays with the 3. And c equals 1. So why don't you try the next practice and see if you've got those two ideas.